Hello, good people of the internet. My name is Andy, and you're watching Geek Curio. And today on the show, we have a very good friend of mine, Kieran. Kieran, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, mate, I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you ever so much for making time to chat with us here on Geek Curio. Obviously, I know you from Twitter and from the UK Hobbyist Network, and
hmm
I do think that you are a fantastic miniature painter. But how did you get started in the hobby?
Uh, well, first of all, thank you for that compliment. It's very kind. How did I get started on a hobby? It must have been 99, I think. I was either 9 or 10, and my two of my best friends who are brothers, the elder brother Colin, he was quite into it. He had a big lizardman army. It was the time of the lizardman Bretonians starter set, I think it was, and they were visiting Edinburgh where I grew up, and we went. I met up with them. We went into Games Workshops, and I think I bought. I was like, I just wanted to be involved with it from seeing it. I was really into Lord of the Rings and stuff when I was a
Mhm.
kid, and I think I bought the Grimgor Ironhide model,
Okay.
the kind of one with the he was holding the Bretonian head or the Empire General's head, the big axe, and I was like, this guy's badass. Yeah, and just started getting into it from there, and I just became just completely obsessed with it. I was all right at painting for my age, I guess. Is the thing that I kind of really enjoyed about it.
Mhm.
Um, I've never been much of a gamer with. I mean, I have played quite a lot, but I'm just not that great at it. I'm not really into like the math hammer kind of thing. I think it's cool and I think it's amazing that people do that, but it's I'm much more kind of narrative focused, and I enjoy kind of thinking about the stories and
Mhm.
stuff, and sort of putting that into the paint jobs as well. And it's kind of so that kind of took me up kind of into. I left high school quite early. I left high school in Scotland. It was the beginning of third year, so I was 14, 15. I was having a really hard time, largely in part to being involved in the hobby and the cool kids not really being into
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I remember those years.
I'm sure that's a very relatable story.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of pulled out of school, and my mum kind of homeschooled me for a few years, and I was just doing a lot of art, a lot of drawing, a lot of painting. And then when I was 16, I went to college. And at that point, I kind of fell out of the hobby,
Mhm.
maybe a little earlier than a lot of people. What people say when I was going to uni is when I kind of fell out of it. But up to that point of like 15, 16, I was just in the games workshops all the time in Edinburgh, always sitting, painting, talking to the members of staff and the other painters who would sit around. It was kind of back in the time where Games Workshops were really focused on the shops being a kind of gaming
Yeah.
center, hobby center, rather than just a shop. I think it's a little bit different now. Um, so we would just spend all our time there, playing games, painting, hanging out, annoying the staff probably, incessant questions. And I had a good relationship with those guys. Like I painted a few models for the shop and stuff, which felt really cool. And there's a few guys there who are really, really great painters who taught me things, and that was kind of that. And then I kind of came, and then I fell out with it, or I didn't have the time. I was 16 and I was working.
Mhm.
I was at college studying fine art, and then I think it must have been 2009. It was when the Warhammer Fantasy Battles High Elves got re-released, the big sixth edition.
Mhm.
I think it was 2008 maybe. So I was like 19, 20. I kind of got back into it a bit because kind of elves were kind of my thing. I was like, cool, love that, love
Elves
these
and
new models. I
Skaven,
went to
wasn't it?
Games Day for the first time. Pardon?
Elves and Skaven, I think it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It was the Island of Blood set,
yeah, yeah. I remember that.
um, and it was yeah, it was cool, and I kind of got quite into it again briefly, and then I eventually went to art school, having been at sort of further education college before that. I kind of fell out of it again then, and then it's just been like a coming back and forth to it,
Mhm.
and then the most recent and feels like a more lasting one is 2019. I kind of always kept checking in on the website just to see what was happening.
Yeah.
Age of Sigmar kind of happened at me. I didn't really know what was going on. I still don't really know a huge amount about it. I was so in love with fantasy that I was just like not really into it. I was kind of
Yeah.
like, I don't like this. I don't like the round bases. I don't like it's weird. I don't,
Yeah.
the more I've been involved and kind of in the scene and stuff, I'm kind of like, okay, maybe I'll give it a shot. And the new Lumineth guys, I'm like, yeah, these are cool. But I had a small Sisters Battle army way back when they were really difficult to collect. It must have been the Codex Witch Hunters came out. Don't even remember what edition that was. And I had a small army, and then I lost it along the way. And I saw the Darren Latham sculpt of the Amalia Novena model. I was like, okay, I need to go and pick this model up. And I had a few paints kind of kicking around. I made a small kind of 8th edition Tau army. Just sort of by myself, not really engaging with the community at all. So I went and picked that up and then sort of painted her. I was like, and then I saw the Junith Area model. I was like, okay, sweet, let's get that one. And then I
Before you know
actually
it.
got hit by I got hit by a car
Oh,
on my
no.
bike. So I was off work for like a month. It wasn't too bad. I kind of messed up the tendon in my knee. So I'm still kind of having a little bit of trouble with that, but had a lot of time just not really doing anything. And I was like, okay, well, let's paint some minis. And just got really into it again. And it's just, and then obviously the pandemic hit and I've had been on furlough and I've just had so much time.
Yeah.
I've just been really painting my little socks off.
You have indeed. I mean, I've been watching the progress that you've been doing on Twitter, and some of the minis that you've been putting out have been absolutely phenomenal. I love your use of non-metallic metals a lot, but also the amount of detail that you put on like textures of cloaks. Even thinking about light sources and how it's hitting the model is absolutely beautiful. I was looking at your more recent Sisters of Battle army. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because it's an interesting paint scheme as well. You've not really gone with the your typical paint scheme, have you?
Yeah, I mean, I just remember when I was younger, everyone always hated painting white. And
I still do.
as I mentioned with the, yeah, I mean, I think I've got it down now. I'm like, okay, I know how to do it. Like, and I think I now understand the secret of it as well. But I had my high elves back in the day. They were completely white, but just different tones and different shades with, and it was more kind of bone and creamy with small kind of purple accents. And like I think when I had my Sister Battle before, they were kind of bone armor with purple cloth. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I thought, well, maybe I would like to just challenge myself. If I'm going to get back into this hobby, I'll paint my sort of considered two hardest colors, which were white and yellow, and try and figure out a way to do them well and consistently, and like not without killing myself.
Are you sure?
And I
Because like an
think,
entire army.
well, I've got a few little tricks and stuff that I use, and actually, when I first started doing them, it was a little bit more involved. I was using Darren Latham's White Scars tutorial for the armor, which kind of involves a Corax white base and then recess shading with Karak stone and then Skaven blight dinge, and then only using white in the very final highlight. And that's kind of what I've realized is the trick with white is not ever using white,
Yeah.
except for those final little bits. And then I discovered the Apothecary white contrast paint, and I was like, okay, this is easy. This is a piece of piss, really. And with the yellows, it's Avalanche Sunset base, which is a really highly pigmented paint, so I don't actually really use any yellow apart from that. And it's kind of shaded with browns and then highlighted with Flayed One Flesh, which is, again, not really a yellow. So you kind of get any effect of these colors without ever really using these colors. And people are like, oh, that's amazing. And you're like, yeah, it's really easy.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a guy on Instagram, Rod's Mods. He does really great painting guides, and his yellow cloth one is very similar to what I do, and I kind of developed it to include the way that he does it a bit more because I thought it was a really good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to him. He's a fantastic painter, and he puts all these amazing guides up on Instagram for free, and they're super simple and super easy to kind of like figure out how to do. And I wanted to offset that with the white and the yellow is quite vibrant and it's not very goth. I guess I'm quite goth. Like
And
I used to play in a goth band, and like I kind of didn't really want to go down that route. I didn't want to go into the kind of grim dark too much,
Mhm.
just because I thought loads of people do that with Sisters of Battle, and loads of red armor, black and white, and cool. But I thought the yellows and the white would be nice, and then to kind of contrast that with the copper, with the verdigris, it's kind of
Mhm.
hitting your nice kind of contrasting colors, and yeah, just it's a bit of a slog sometimes, but like I try and do little projects to break it up and paint just totally different things.
They are absolutely beautiful. I even love the green that you've got because you've got quite a lot of green running through that as well. It almost at
Yeah,
first I thought it was nilic oxide, but
it is.
it
It
is.
is on the metal. It's nilic
Yeah,
oxide, and then on the um swords and the lenses and stuff, it's like what is it, Caliban green, Sybrite green,
yeah,
that kind of more turquoisey.
yeah,
So it is the same kind of color as the lilac, but the lilac just has a really nice effect
yeah. I
on
mean,
the on the
I
on the
I
metallics.
I've used Nilak in a completely different way. I tend to use it as a recess on like a copper or a bronze or something. But the
Uh
way that you've used it is just, I'm really, really impressed. And it also, you can easily pick out weapons on the army as well quite well.
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
metallic
But it's
bits.
the power swords and stuff isn't the nilic oxide. That's the kind of
That's, yeah.
Caliban Syberite. Um, but like I did a lot of metal work when I was at art school,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of bronze casting. So the kind of the patina or the verdigris is something that I really like just in real life, as well as on the models, and kind of ways of applying that in a way that feels kind of real.
Hmm.
Like on the pulpit of Junith Erudita along the wings,
Yeah.
I've actually painted the bronze, the copper back on, as if that's where her hands have
Yeah.
been.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Kind
saw
of
that on the
yeah,
almost
because you
about.
see that on statues where people rub it and it polishes it, and I thought that would be a cool little, just a little touch
Yeah.
kind of there.
It's really, really good. And I like
Mm.
the you sent me a photo of the solo one. Going back to the sword that she's using,
Oh yeah.
pretty much looks like emerald, like almost like glass. And I
Uh-huh.
really love
I've
the.
I've got a I've got a guide for that on my Instagram. I can send you that as well. It's just one of these things. It's just glazing. It's just
Mhm.
going back and forth between the two colors. But the, the thing that I kind of realized with that and with the power swords in this army is that when you glaze up with white, you lose saturation.
Mhm.
So then it's actually better to glaze down into the color, because then the transparency, the paint is always maintaining the saturation of the color. Like if you paint a surface blue and then add the highlights in glazing white, you're going to get a really chalky finish
Yeah.
because the white particles are sitting on top of the blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas if you glaze down with the blue, I mean, this is pretty
Makes sense.
standard glazing technique, I guess, but it's kind of
No, no,
the
no.
thing where
That
you
that
can,
makes perfect sense. It explains where I went wrong with one of the busts I was doing.
yeah, it's just a simple thing, and when you know it, it's like, oh, it's easy now,
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah.
and it's the same with the robes on them as well. I don't really highlight with the Averland Sunset. I shade with the Scrag Brown, which doesn't really get chalky,
Mhm.
in the same way. Um, so that's kind of with the swords, and she's got black armor
Mhm.
because I thought that would be kind of cool because she's the Demonifuge. I read those comics when I was a kid, and I thought it was cool. And now I'm thinking maybe I'll do all my flyers with black armor just to kind of set them apart
Yeah.
a little bit. But it's finding those things in the army to keep it interesting for yourself,
Yeah.
but to keep it cohesive as well. A lot of the time, people kind of reverse their Celestian armor and robes to set them apart, whereas I just flip the robe color on them.
Yeah. I can see that because
Um,
you got the yellow parts, and obviously the sword brings green back in ties the green back
Yeah.
in to the rest of
Yeah.
the army, which I really really like. And
Yeah.
I'm even just looking at the bricks on the base as
Uh,
well. So I know that's part of the model, but it looks like you've taken time to shade and highlight each one of those.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't spend an enormous amount of time on bases for armies.
Mhm.
I know some people say you should spend the same amount of time on the base as you do on the model, and like for my attention span isn't like, yeah, on the competition pieces maybe, but not on normal sort of army jobs. And I know they're like I do take pride in them, and I do spend a bit of time there. I wouldn't say I'd say they're maybe a little bit above tabletop standard. They're definitely above tournament standard, which is what, three
Yeah,
colors.
definitely above
Um,
tabletop standard. I'm really bad with my bases. I've been making a few videos for the channel of stuff that I've done, and I realised
uh,
that me doing bases is PVA glue and a bit of sand, and it looks so
I mean,
bad. Um,
that's there's nothing wrong with that, Andy. There's
that's
absolutely
that's
nothing.
mine. I was quite happy
Yeah,
with the model itself, but the
yeah,
PVA
yeah,
glue
yeah.
is kind of like yeah. So,
I would say honestly, just chip that off the sides. It should chip. I
yeah,
mean, I always get overspill when I do it. There's not really a way to avoid it. I just chip it off, and then with when I originally was basing them, I just put a layer of Agrax Earthshade onto the sand, and that looks really
oh
good. I'd
cool.
never really like to highlight it because it kind of looks like mud, and then I use the old school static grass with the PVA.
Yeah,
I never really got into the tufts, but doing commissions more, I've kind of bought a lot of tufts and all that kind of stuff. But then I actually rebased the whole army. I got the Sector Imperialis bases,
Mhm.
so I rebased the entire army, which was a bit of a mission. Um, and I cut my finger pretty badly trying to chip one of them off the base. It's so stupid. Totally. It's
I
just
know I know what you mean because you might see I've got the Blade of the Blood Queen set over there.
oh yeah,
The
yeah.
first model I did was the White King, I think it is, with
Uh-huh.
Baleful Hammer. And as the model comes, the model actually comes on a square base. So part of the model is
Uh,
attached to the base. But of course, they don't want you using square bases anymore, so they give you a
yeah.
circular base.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I knew that if I was going to try and remove the squareness from the base and attach it, I was going to have an accident. So I ended
Mhm.
up getting a load of milliput and basically melding the square and circular base
Yeah,
together.
yeah, yeah.
So and then it looks terrible, but I managed to save a couple of fingers and thumbs at
Yeah. Well,
least.
I think I was trying to pop one of them off, and I stupidly had the knife come. I mean, I worked as a chef since I was 16, so I've had
Experience with
a lot of
knives.
pretty bad a lot of pretty bad cuts and burns. But craft knives, I mean, I use like little scalpel blades, so I mean they're obviously designed to cut you. uh, I had a really bad one recently where I crumpled a bag in my hand that had a blade in it
Oh,
because by accident, and I've got this was like maybe just over a month ago actually, and I embedded this craft knife into my finger, and I think I've got nerve damage in my finger now, which is not great. It was completely numb for about 3 weeks, and now the feeling's starting to come back. But it's so
is
stupid.
that the type of blades that you have with X-Acto knives, or is it the like
Mm.
razor blade
No,
ones?
it's like the little like scalpels.
Okay.
So like they're like the ones with little handles, and then you slot the blade in and twist it, and it kind of holds it in place. Those kind of ones, yeah. So it's surgical grade steel, very, very, very sharp.
Ooh.
Don't last very long, but they blunt really quickly. But I have a ton of them, so it's not too bad.
I
Yeah, that was
always
bad. Luckily,
'cause I don't often shave, but when I do, I tend to use a cutthroat razor.
oh right,
And
yeah, yeah,
the worst thing about it is basically you get the little razor, so it's a brand new razor every single time. And you get like
yeah.
100 of them in a packet, so they're great.
Hmm.
The problem is when you're getting rid of them.
Yeah, what do you do with them?
Yeah, I end up having to like wrap it up in toilet roll and put it. Number of
Yeah,
times I've cut myself with those, and that
yeah,
seems to just like slice a layer of skin off.
yeah, yeah. How to dispose of razor blades? Sellotape them up.
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
that's
best thing
another
to do.
duct tape. Duct tape.
Yeah,
I need to get some duct tape
yeah,
for the bathroom.
yeah, yeah. Or get a sharps bag. Those things you get little yellow bags that you put sharp things in, like needles and stuff like that. Yeah,
I don't know where I get one of those from.
no, you probably just buy them on Amazon
Yeah,
actually,
you can buy anything on
then you're
Amazon.
supposed to dispose them with Sharp's company. So like, I don't really know how you do that, but
I'll
it's like,
I'll just
how do you throw away light bulbs? Like, you don't want a bin man,
yeah,
breaking a light bulb and cutting his hand open.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? All these things you got to think about. You know.
Oh dear, now I'm just going to be worried about light bulbs and disposing of them.
Yeah, I
So,
don't think it's really much to worry about.
like I say, you've been painting. Obviously, you've got quite a big background in art. So, and you say you've
Hmm.
been painting.
Yeah,
Got into the hobby about 20 odd years ago.
yeah.
Um,
Ugh.
and like I say, the pictures, and I'll probably have a slideshow of your stuff going on at the
Mhm.
moment. Um, how did you get so good? I mean, like I say, the work that you
Uh,
do is phenomenal. And what have you done to try and level up those abilities? Have
um, well, I think like I had a pretty solid. Like, I've always been quite good at drawing and painting, and I've done a lot of technical art
Mhm.
kind of practice. Like, I've done a lot of life drawing. Like, I've done a lot of painting. I did oil painting when I was 16, and then life painting as well. So painting models that were there, and kind of that's a really good foundation on how to understand the way that light hits things. I also watched a shitload of videos about it recently to like improve. I subscribe to Richard Gray's Patreon. It's amazing. Uh, he's had quite a different way of painting to me, and I think quite a lot of people. I think he's quite a unique painter. He's also absolutely insanely talented. I also just did it a lot when I was younger, so a lot of it is muscle memory from then. And then I've also just been doing it a lot this year, and like I kind of want to get another Junith Aerobita model to paint and then compare it to, because that was one of the first, this I think the second model that I painted for my sisters, and that was after the Amali Novena, which I actually stripped and I'm repainting anyway. And I'd like to see the progression over the year and a half that it's been,
yeah,
because I feel like I have come on since then. And like, I think I sent you a photo of a space marine that I painted to try and emulate
yes,
kind of heavy metal style
yeah,
for someone. It was a challenge someone set to me, and I was kind of like, okay, well, let's see how clean can we paint. How, like, let's not do the colors we've been doing this whole time, and like it's just pushing yourself and trying new challenges. I've still got 9 intercessors in the box that I got him from, and I'm
mhm,
gonna maybe paint another one at some point. You know, and I'm painting a lot just now with doing like a lot of commissions. So it's like I'm in the studio basically doing a full time job. Uh, so it's just painting 40 hours a week. You know, you're just get like, it doesn't matter if you've got a background in art or not. If you paint a lot, you're gonna get better. That's just it. But you also need to be open to pushing yourself as well. I
yeah,
think that's really important, and not just going, okay, well, I've done this and that's good, I'm just going to do that again. It's like, well, no, let's do it again, but let's do it better. Let's figure out what was shit about the first one and then not do that again. You know, it's the same cooking. It's the same. You know, I've worked as a picture framer, I've worked as a chef, I've worked as an art tech, and it's all just doing the same thing lots and getting better,
mhm,
and not being scared of making mistakes. And when you make a mistake, instead of freaking out, just go, okay, well, I don't like the way that that turned out. Why don't I like it? What is it about it that I don't like? And a lot of the time, it's impatience. I think a lot when I mess things up, it's because I'm getting impatient and I'm rushing.
mhm,
So I just try and slow down and think about what I'm doing and try and be in the moment when I'm painting a little bit. Uh, Especially when working on higher end stuff. And I think like having projects that you're not trying to finish to a deadline is really good. Like, most of the stuff that I'm painting is to a deadline
yeah,
for clients, and I'm trying to get this army finished as well. So that's also kind of feels like there's pressure. But then I also have like a spirits here that I'm working on. I have the Katachan models that I'm working on. I've got an exciting project on the way in the post. It should be arriving on Friday. It's like an old Inquisitor model, which I was obsessed with, and I just really want them to bring it back. It's so cool. But I got quite a rare model, and I kind of want to apply a lot of the techniques that I've been learning from Richard Gray's Patreon into it, and that kind of style, and see how I can push that as well.
mhm,
And it's just having things that aren't like yeah, that aren't a deadline, that don't have any expectation, is just purely for the skill and the craft of it, and the enjoyment of painting and applying paint to models. And they're never going to get played with. You know,
Yeah.
they're just for looking cool and maybe sell them at some point or whatever. But like, maybe not. Like,
I remember when you sent that intercetters to me a while back when we were having just our discussions chats
oh
offline
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
Discord, wasn't it? Because I remember you said
yeah,
you were
yeah.
saying I'm trying to get the heavy metal look sort
Mm-hmm.
of thing, and you're like, what do you think? And I was like, sort of thing. But I know you were getting a lot of feedback from other people about
Yeah.
where else to look as well. So
I
it's
think I think that's another really good thing to do, actually, is to make friends with painters who you admire and go, what do you think? And say, as I said, I keep saying, oh, I work to the chef. Being open to criticism is so important, and actually, going to art school as well, like a huge part of your education there is presenting work and having people honestly reflect on it,
yeah,
and being able to like not be upset when someone says that something's not successful or someone points out a mistake. There's uh, a lot of people who really helped me with those Space Marines on the Discord and on Twitter and Instagram. Mr. Sai Stu, he really helped
mm-hmm.
me with it. CN Dante, he really helped me with it. Warbringer on the Discord helped me with it. You helped me with it as well. Um, it's just, and then asking people and saying, look, I need you to be brutal with it because I want it to be perfect. And I know it's not going to be perfect, but the closer I can get to that, the better. And the only way to do that is by people going, there's a little bit here that's kind of spilled over, and you go, oh, I didn't see that, so go back and fix that. And then,
Yeah.
and just find people who are painting at the standard that you want to paint at and say, how can I get better? you know or not even people who are painting at that standard,
No,
just
I was going to say
fresh.
I wouldn't fall in that category.
Just, you stare at these little models for so long that you stop seeing them, and you stop seeing all the nuances and stuff, and if you send it to someone new who's not seen it before, then they're going to be looking at it completely
Yeah,
differently. They're going to be, and if you say to them, be brutal, they're going to really be nitpicky about it. And I think that's really important,
yeah,
because sometimes you go a little bit easy on yourself. I think I maybe do sometimes, and sometimes need someone to like send me a little screenshot back with a circle going, that's wrong. The reflection on this is incorrect or whatever. And you're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I was just being lazy or whatever. But
a lot of my learnings are things that I can do with an airbrush. So
uh-huh.
I'm just trying new techniques because a lot of the airbrush stuff that's out there tends to be for canvas work. I'm trying to flip it on its
Mm-hmm.
head and just try something new, like what I did with the Mortark Harbingers.
Uh-huh.
The one that I just showed earlier, and it was
Yeah, yeah,
kind of
yeah.
a case of like I want to get a really good effect on these wings, and I did the reverse of zenithal highlighting, so it's all black, and then I
Mm-hmm.
shot up with white,
Mm-hmm.
and then one color down, one color up, and I got this lovely bubblegum effect. So I call them my
Mm.
bubblegum harbingers.
Yeah. Yeah, I got an airbrush back, April last year. I think I got it for myself for my birthday.
Mhm.
And I mean, I mainly use it for undercoating stuff because I don't like using spray paints, really. I
They're
mean,
brilliant for
I like the
undercoating.
effect, but like they stink and you have to do it
Yeah,
outside, and it's just, I live in Scotland. It's not a good
I live in the
environment for being
northeast.
outside on it. Yeah, yeah. So just having an airbrush and just being able to like bash varnish on or whatever is brilliant.
Yeah,
I like doing a little bit more experimenting and stuff with it, but not, it's not really my sort of forte. And I do practice, but I've not got the mad skills with it yet.
yeah,
But the things some people do, like Dana Howell, like I love the way that she uses it to do those like synthwave kind of
yeah.
things.
She's my inspiration, definitely. So
Yeah, she's cool. And was just doing a job with some poxwalkers, and I was laying down a sort of multicolored base coat
mhm.
with Games Workshop shades. Go really nicely through the airbrush.
Yeah,
They're maybe a little thin, but like
they're like
using
misty.
them to like color filters on things is quite good as well. But I don't really. I think I painted my one of my Canon S's with zenithal highlights just to kind of try it out, but I just couldn't get the consistency of the white really
Mhm.
nice. And you end up painting over the whole thing anyway. And I was just like, it's kind of a step that's maybe
Yeah, that's
unnecessary, but
that's the mistakes I made with Xenophon at the start.
yeah. I mean, I think people do amazing stuff with it, but it's not really my style. Like, and I don't want to like spend hours and hours and hours like forcing myself to do something that I'm not really that into doing myself.
No,
It's like I would
it's
rather craft the skills that I have and
it's all about
kind of
using the
push
skills
them.
and using the tools
Yeah,
that you enjoy, really, isn't it? So
yeah. And there's some things that like I can see it being really useful for, like object source lighting and stuff like that. Like just being able to like pop the airbrush in and, and then it's like boom, done, easy. See you later. Not going to spend hours glazing in.
So this is why people need to talk to each other, because everyone says, "Oh, you'll do object source lighting really easy with an airbrush," and I'm just looking at it like, no, I don't. I personally can't see it. But if I can talk to other people
I
about
think
it,
the secret that I've seen from tutorials is to put white in first and then put the color on, so that you're still getting the light kind of coming on. If you just put a red ink on it or something, it's just going
it's
to
just a
tint the
red
color.
glaze,
It's
isn't
not
it?
going to look like light. Yeah, whereas if you put the white down first, it kind of like brings a luminosity to it and it kind of opens it up
That
a little
makes
bit. But
sense. That makes sense.
yeah, honestly, like I think it's really cool, but I can never really be bothered doing it. Obviously, if a client was like, "Oh, I want this," I'd be like, "Cool, I can probably do that." But like, I just
I can't.
for my own stuff, for the army and that, like the character models, I spend a bit more time on. But I want it to be consistent across the whole thing. And if I do one power sword glowing, I'm gonna have to do all of them glowing, and that's just a lot of work for
Yeah.
like
So the last thing you want is
yeah,
a
gaming
Harlequin army
models.
with object source lighting.
No thanks.
I thought I just saw the colour drain from your face then.
I just painted a fucking Harlequin for a job, and like I loved it because it was one model.
I
I was like, brilliant. I could spend a bit of time doing the checks and stuff, and like, but imagine doing a whole Harlequin army all with hand painted checks.
this
Like,
happened to me. So I entered a competition at my local game store where we were given a random model to do, and I
mhm.
got the Harlequin something Seeker. I can't remember what it's called. Um, anyway, I spent an entire weekend doing everything. I didn't do the diamonds anywhere near as thin as what they
Mhm.
are on the cover art, but I did a pretty decent job.
Mhm.
And I even wet blended the robes and everything.
Mhm.
Got it in, won the competition. But also, it meant that someone wanted me to do a Harlequin commission, and I thought, oh
Uh,
yeah, one every 3 days, no problem. I got sick of Harlequin diamonds to the point. Well.
yeah, I seen that. I seen that. I was like, you've got them tattooed on your arm.
You'd think I'd hate them, but no, I do like Harlequin diamonds. But they are just really hard to do, just getting the diamond right. And I thought if I have to do it, I'm going to make my tattooist do it as well. So
Yeah, the thing that I struggled with, I actually redid it. I painted them and I didn't like them, so I painted over it and redid it. But like the way of sometimes you see people painting the lines
mm-hmm.
in grids and then filling in alternating blocks. But the problem with that is that the line has a thickness. So you say you're doing black and white, whatever. You're starting with a white base coat and you're painting black lines over it. So you've got, like however much of a mill line, and then you've got your black diamonds, but then the line kind of your black diamonds are always going to be sort of X bigger than the
Yeah,
white ones,
yeah.
so it never actually is correct. So I did that initially for this commission, and then I kind of went, this looks shit. And I'd done ones on the other leg really nice, and I was like, these ones look really shit. These ones look really nice. I'm just gonna paint over it. Thing is, I'd done a gradient as a base, so I had to paint the gradient again,
Ah.
and then, but I just did it with the airbrush because it's much quicker. Um, and then I just painted the first diamond on, and then just painted
Worked it.
diamond by
Yeah.
diamond, and it just looked so much better. And it's always worth kind of, if you're not happy with something, just redo it. It takes 2 minutes to fix, and it's just it's just better. It's just better to
Mm-hmm.
take pride in what you're doing, and to correct mistakes if you see them and not try and get away with it because you're lazy.
Yeah. Well, the hardest
Like if you're
person.
gonna, yeah, if you're, I feel like if you're gonna do something, do it well. if you're not going to do it in the first place, just don't do it. Like if you're going to half-arse it, just don't do it in the
Mhm.
first place. Like it's not worth it, and it's going to be crap, and you're going to look like a dick. You know, like yeah. So
So,
that's
speaking of tools, what is your paintbrush of choice? Do you have a specific one that you like most of all?
yeah. I like the Series 7 Winsor Newtons.
Hmm.
Um, but I also like the Arch Opus ones as well. I was using the Winsor Newtons pretty much. I went through a little period when I first got into it. I didn't really want to spend too much on paintbrushes, so I was buying like Games Workshop ones, which are like honestly not great. And then I bought some Army Painter ones, which also weren't very good. And I bought some uh, Winsor Newton watercolor ones, which were okay, but they didn't last very long. And then I was like, okay, everyone's talking about these Series 7s. Let's get them and see what they're like. And they came in these like nice little tubes, and I was like, okay, it's sweet. Like I'm a bit of a kit head. Like I love buying like cool things and using like good gear. Um, and then I was like, well, let's try the Arched Opus ones, and I got them, and it's like they're like I think once you get to a certain point of quality, not much changes.
Hmm.
Like they are size wise, they're a little bit different. So I got when I first got the Arched Opus ones, I got some size twos and some size double zeros. The double zeros are the same size as Winsor Newton double zeros. The size twos are the same as size one Series 7s, and then the size fours are the same size as the size two Series 7s. So they're sized down.
Okay.
So once I figured that out, I was fine, and they're like, comparable in price, and I wanted to support a smaller company. And got their dry brushes as well, which are fantastic. And I was kind of like, oh, I can just keep buying these paintbrushes, which are just as good off Amazon, and just give this big company money, or I could find a company that is run by miniature painters
Mm.
and give them my money instead. And that to me feels more ethical
Yeah.
and better. Um, so I'm kind of sticking with them, I think. I did get a big makeup brush for dry brushing, but I bought a cheap one, and the bristles just came out on the thing I was dry brushing, which is annoying.
I went and bought. I did that as well because and I just didn't find it very good.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like it's almost too soft.
yeah,
Um,
this now is for cleaning my desk. I kind of like
uh
do that every now and then. I don't actually use it for dry brushing. Um, I actually like the Games Workshop one for dry brushing, but everything
Is
else.
it a big flat one? Is it?
The Yeah, it's actually in my pot to clean, but that's pretty
Oh
much the
yeah,
one I use, and that's waiting
yeah.
to
I
be
got I
cleaned.
got a few I got a few bigger what are they
And
called?
this is my greatest brush ever, which
It's a
came
good.
as a pack of 17 or something
Was it
for
like
two
50p or something?
for £2,
Yeah,
and I would never
yeah,
let it go ever. Um,
yeah. Sometimes you get those
you
good
you
cheap brushes,
find that
which
one.
just yeah, yeah.
Everyone
I got
seems
I
to have
got a
one like that.
few I got a few like big brushes for. I got a couple of those Sector Imperialis Battle Zone tiles, the big two
Oh
foot by
yes,
two
yeah.
foot ones that I've been sort of taking pictures on. I just bought another one the other day for 30 quid, which is pre painted as well. But I'm gonna obviously gonna repaint it. But so I got some big brushes, just like some artist acrylic brushes for doing them. Um, but yeah, the Artist Opus ones are fantastic, and I got a set of the dry brushes as well, which I've never really been much of a dry brusher. I don't like the effect that it gives,
Hmm.
like in the sort of traditional way, but the way like I watch some of their videos as well, and the box comes with this little kind of damping sponge,
Hmm.
and you kind of like instead of putting more paint on, you just sort of dampen it, and you can actually get like a really good
Oh, cool.
kind of smooth transition, which is something I didn't think before seeing their stuff. Whenever I dry brush in the past, it always like just looked a bit crap and felt a bit like I don't know, just like chalky and kind
Yeah.
of like I know it sounds stupid, but like dry looking,
No,
uh,
I know what you mean because it
like
goes
yeah.
all random. I used to when I first started, I used to dry brush everything with lead belcher,
Mhm.
because at the time I just thought it looked cool, and looking back, it just looks awful. But it's what, like you say, knowing now. No, if I knew then what I knew now, I would never have
Yeah.
done it, but I do remember all my early stuff was just everything was lead belcher or
Yeah.
chainmail as it was called.
Ah, classic. Love that. Yeah, it's funny being so involved in a hobby when I was a kid and like sort of religiously knowing all the paint colors and then coming back and it's like in the time it changed so much. I'm like, wow, what's that? I'm
Yeah,
looking up like there's like a chart conversion
yeah, I've got that.
on the end. I was like looking at like what's it called
See,
now?
I missed the middle bit. See, I got into it
Yeah,
when it
yeah,
was
me too. Yeah,
goblin green and everything,
yeah, yeah,
and then
yeah,
I missed the middle bit, and then I've come back where it's all war green and
yeah.
all that. So but I did find out about Devlin Mud and Snakebite Leather, which to me were two of the best paints of the middle ones, and never quite.
Yeah, because there was I remember when I dipped my toe back in, like I said before, for the
Mhm.
high elves, a lot of the process was using Devlin mud, and I was like, this is a great paint. I just like spray paint it like bleach bone, Devlin mud, and then just like meticulously highlight it back up with the white,
Mhm.
and it looked really really great. And then I sort of dipped out again and came back, and I was like, where's the Devlin mud gone? Where is she? Where is she?
and then,
But
and
no, I was like, I've not really like gotten too much into the contrast stuff. I have some, like I mentioned before, the Apothecary White, fantastic, really good. I like the Basilicanum Grey instead of Nuln Oil
mm,
is a really nice one that I've seen recently. And then I've got a few, I just don't really use them for much. I use the Wildwood and Black Templar for freehanding because they're so smooth.
oh wow, yeah, I didn't think. Yeah,
So they like apply really nicely, small. So I did them for like purity seals and stuff. Um, and I got one of the yellow ones for some reason, and sometimes use that to glaze.
uh,
But I don't.
that one I
Is that
call.
the
See that
is that the
yellow
flame?
is Yandin yellow,
Oh yeah,
and
I've
to
got that
me
one.
this
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
Space Wolf shoulder pad
Ah, yeah, yeah,
because it
yeah.
just always looks like the Space Wolf. It
Yeah,
just seems to be the right color.
yeah. I just don't like the effect that they give particularly much, and yeah. I mean, if I was wanting to just bash out armies, it would be amazing. Like just slap it on, send it out. But like, I think my primary focus in the hobby is painting, so
Yeah,
I don't really want a shortcut necessarily. I kind of
you
want
want to
to
enjoy the
paint it.
painting. I
Yeah,
I
yeah.
tried the
And I mean, like,
they did
yeah.
the Space Wolf grey because I thought, oh, that's going to make
Mm.
things easy for me because I paint Space Wolves,
Uh,
and I put them on Space Marine armor, and it looks awful. So
yeah, big flat plates. It just doesn't look very good. And although, like, they work really well through an airbrush.
yeah, that's what I on
Yeah.
Space. So they work well on an airbrush. So then I did it to my Blood Bowl, which is orcs. So I thought
Uh
I'll
huh.
use the airbrush again. It looked terrible, but then I went to the brush and it looked good.
Hmm. Yeah, I think like in the same way with shade paints, like if it's very textured, it'll look good. If it's flat, it just kind of pools. And
Yeah, just looks
I
like a
know some
badly
people
painted.
do like 2 or 3 layers, but like once you've got a solid coat, it's like why didn't you just use a base paint? You would could have got it in less layers, and you've got a flat color. I'm a big advocate of like just blocking in color with the airbrush first. Like say I'm working on an ultramarines commission, I'll undercoat it macragge blue instead of black and then macragge blue, or like I'll mix a bit of
Mm.
matte varnish into the paint. I learned that from Stu actually, from that Mr. Shy. He was saying if you want a colored primer that you don't have, you mix in a bit of varnish, and that gives it the toughness, or satin varnish or whatever. Like I know matte varnish isn't particularly strong, but if you need to do maybe 2 coats because now it has a certain level of transparency to it, but you're going to get the toughness that you need
Yeah,
from the primer to stop it chipping off.
oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Um, it's good. That's quite good advice I think that I got. Or what I also sometimes do is do the layer and then put a layer of varnish over that. Especially if you're doing space marines and you're wanting to pin wash them, if you put a gloss varnish over, which is the hardest, or a satin varnish, which is kind of also quite hard, then it has like it breaks the surface tension more for the pin washing,
Mhm.
and you have the toughness and the base colors protected, and then you can just matte varnish over it
Cool.
afterwards. So those are all like good little tips and tricks and little things that you figure out from talking to people who are also talented painters but know different things to you. Yeah,
I'm definitely learning things through this interview.
good.
And finally, question that I always ask everyone is, what advice would you give someone who's wanting to get into miniature painting?
Uh, I mean, I don't really know much outside of GW stuff, honestly, so I can only really give advice of that. Um, I think figure out what you want, what like it's difficult because for me, like I'm not a big gamer, so I can't really give much advice
Mhm.
about the gaming side of it. But I would say my way in was seeing a model I thought was cool and going, I want to paint that. Find a model you think is cool and have a shot. Don't be afraid to then later strip the paint of it and give it another shot. Or buy a box of whatever and just practice. Speak to other people who are in the hobby. Get on Twitter if you want and follow cool people. Get inspired, but don't compare yourself to them because if you're just starting, then and someone's been painting for 20 years, your stuff's gonna look shit compared to it unless you're a freak and are just pretty naturally talented at it. Some people are, but I would say just don't expect to be perfect at something instantly. I think that's good advice in general for starting anything. Like I think accepting the fact that your stuff is going to be not great at the beginning is a really good foundation to get better, rather than kind of not being amazing at something instantly and going, "Oh, I'm shit. Oh, I'm never going to do this again," and feel totally put off. Instead, like go on YouTube and look up techniques. Watch the Warhammer TV channel. They have loads of great painting guides and they're pretty easy to follow as well.
Mhm.
You know, they've had some really great painters doing the things, and they have a way of breaking it down, which is great. Obviously, that's quite specific to GW paints, but it's not really about the paint color. It's about the technique. It's about thinning your paints and applying it
Mhm.
and being patient and letting things dry. Um, if you want to get into gaming and you're not bothered, then do what you want. Like you know, spray paint it, paint the eyes two different colors, and it's tournament ready. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or like whatever. Like find how much you want to invest in it initially. If you like want to paint single miniatures, do that and spend more time learning how to paint. If you want to game, then buy your army and crack them out, no bother. But you don't expect to win the best painted army at the competition at the tournament. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
it's what you get out of it, what you want to get out of it, and you know just like have fun, do what you want. Don't worry about what other people are doing so much, except for in terms of inspiration.
Yeah.
Like there's people in the Discord that have huge armies and they're painted, and I'm like, wow, like I would love to have 4,000 points of my army painted, but like I have so much other stuff going on that it's like I can't just focus on that one thing. And if I spent 40 hours a week painting my army, that would be great. But then the only thing I'd know how to paint would be my army,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. It's good to mix it up.
So that's what you know. Also, don't sell your models on eBay as pro painted if you're not a professional model painter. Yeah, that's a whole other subject to
Whole
get
other
into, I
story,
think.
I think.
Yeah,
Well, thank you ever so much for spending the time with us today, Kieran. It's been
that's all right.
an
It's been fun.
absolute pleasure. And like I say, I think I've learned quite a lot from this interview as well. And it's just great to finally sit down and chat with you face to
Yeah,
face
it's
because, like
nice
I said, we
to.
talk
Yeah.
loads. So, anyway,
Yeah. I know, like a lot. I know a lot of people get into the hobby hangout or whatever and talk in this way on the Discord or whatever, and I don't really paint at night,
mhm.
so I kind of feel disconnected from that side of the community. Like I'm in here from 9 in the morning till
Yeah,
5:30, and by that point, people have been doing their normal jobs, and then they're hobbying in the evening. I don't have any hobby stuff at home. It's all in the studio, so it's nice to actually talk to someone, and
it's
it's really pleasant. Yeah,
have
it's
fun.
good.
Okay, well,
Good.
thank you very much, and I'll probably be speaking to you again soon on the Discord. Take care now.
Excellent. Yeah, take it easy.